It's the show the establishment warned you about.
Al, first off, I want to thank you for coming in. I understand that there was some type of apprehension on your part as far as pursuing the option of doing a television show, and I'm sympathetic to that. The confusion that I'm experiencing based on our phone call that we had, as short as it was, the apprehension on your part, international film star that you are. I believe that the possibilities for this show to be a big-titted hit, for the lack of a better word, would really stand a better chance were we to have a man of your stature in our corner.
If there was anything that you might have sensed or perceived as apprehension, David, it is the fact that I have never explored the foray into television, so I'm a little apprehensive. But HBO, it's not TV. What I want to say, we're having an open dialogue. I think that it would be great if the character of Swearingen, nothing extravagant, suffered from some type of impairment, be it maybe a stutter like that would be good. Or maybe a facial tic. When he got angry, his eye would tick, something like that. Or even you could go as far to have a limp, like a grate sort of dragged his leg, as if maybe he was trampled by a horse, or he got hit by a barrel that was rolling down the street when he was 4. The other thought that I had is that I think it's imperative that the character has to yell every now and then, "Shut up!" or "Fuck you!" or "You're out of order!" or something, you know. As long as there has to be, I think, the nuance of this character is that he likes to shout.
Yeah, welcome back. Dr. Tommy Show. That is a wonderful Titus Welliver doing his Al Swearingen auditions. This is the Dr. Tommy Show, broadcasting live from the free state of Florida. This, he played Silas on Deadwood, and this is on our website, drtommy.com/podcast. It's the Titus Welliver Al Swearingen auditions from Saul Goodman channel. Give attribution there, and I don't know who. That actually was a DVD extra, so anyway, that's a great thing to watch. It's funny. If you've seen Deadwood, you know who Silas is, or if you don't know who Silas is, he's the guy who was he comes to town with a politician, and then he later joins the team of Al Swearingen. And some other auditions from that same outtake is they're all method actors. So it's David Milch, who's a creator of Deadwood, interviewing different guys to play Al Swearingen before Deadwood actually was put on. And so there's Al Pacino. Next up is Christopher Walken, followed by Robert Duvall, followed by Robert De Niro, and they all give their take on how Al Swearingen should be. And if you've ever seen any of David Milch's interviews, he does Titus does a great job of impersonating all 5 of those people. It's amazing. If you also want to see something funny, watch William Friedkin. He's another director who just loves method actors. And just look up, just Google or go on YouTube. Maybe I'll put that on the website too. William Friedkin, and how his admiration for the methods of method actors. It's pretty funny. Dr. Tommy Show is broadcasting live on Rumble, and then it later goes to YouTube if it doesn't get taken down by YouTube. And then it is also streaming on all platforms. And we're glad you're here. So today I wanted to go over a lot of different things. First of all, I want to give you a Dostoevsky update. So I've started this new book called The Brothers Karamazov. And it is a difficult book to get through, even listening to it. It is fully 34 hours of audiobook. So I'm on disc 5 or 6, and it is dense, but it is hilarious at times, and it is funny at times. And Dostoevsky does a great job of building out characters. One of the characters he has is this guy named Smernikov, and this poor fella is he's a product of what is a rape of a mentally challenged peasant in Russia. And the rape is most likely by the protagonist of the book, Theodore Pavlovich. And we don't know for sure who it is, but this guy, Smernikov, becomes a serf. Well, actually, the serfs have been freed by this time in Russia in the book. So he's not a serf, but he's a servant, serving his probable father named Theodore Pavlovich. Anyway, they talk about this Smernikov, and he is very this chapter just now delves into the character of him, and we just are introduced to him very early in the book. There's three servants of Theodore Pavlovich, who is for lack of a better term, bastard son of a bitch. He's a bad person. Anyway, he has these three peasants that work for him: Gregory, his wife, Martha, and then this Smernikov. And then later on we learned out how they found Smernikov. And Smernikov was found after Martha, I can't remember, and Gregory had just lost their baby. And the baby was a sickly baby. It was born and then it was never well. And then it died shortly thereafter. And this baby was born with 6 fingers, which upset Gregory to no end, to the point of where he said that the baby shouldn't receive communion because it was a devil baby. But then when the baby died, he was very sad. This is one of the peasants, Gregory. Anyway, later that night or somewhere soon thereafter, after having lost their baby, which Gregory never really, he paid no attention to it during its whole life, because he felt like it was a demon. And then once it died, then he was quite sad about it, apparently. They make a big deal in this book about bowing and the importance of bowing, and how deep your bow goes means how reverent your bow is. So if you just bow slightly at the waist, as Obama may bow to the Saudis, although Obama did a full like 90-degree bow to the Saudis. Anyway, however far you bowed over tells you how much reverence you have for the person you're bowing to. Anyway, when the baby dies, Gregory bows completely, and I think his forehead touches the ground. So that's a huge show of appreciation. Anyway, so Gregory and his wife are laying in bed, and his wife wakes up and she hears a baby crying. She thinks it's a baby crying. But in actuality, Gregory does not hear a baby crying. He hears a woman wailing. And they're both right, because Gregory gets up and he goes out into the outhouse. This is the outhouse of Theodore Pavlovich. And in there is this, what they call, I think they call her an idiot in the book, which was a former technical term for people with mental retardation. Anyway, so she was this person in this outhouse, and she had given birth. And she had been raped because she was hardly even vocal. She couldn't even speak. She could just utter. And anyway, so she was raped apparently at some point. And we found out later in the book, that she was known to be pregnant. So this wasn't a surprise. Anyway, he finds her in that house, and she has given birth, and she's laying on the floor dying next to this baby who was alive. And then later on, we find out that the baby survives, and Gregory and his wife take the baby in because the baby is kind of replacing their baby that was gone. Anyway, so Smernikov is that baby. And then Smernikov grew up as very, not very communicative, very, I call it inscrutable. And then there's this part in this book where they're talking about Smernikov, and he's sent away because he apparently shows this fastidiousness towards food. And he's sent away to Moscow to learn to become a cook for Theodore Pavlovich. And so he's learning to become a cook, and he comes back, and he's actually had learned a great deal about cooking. But they said that even though he came back, he was very well groomed from Moscow. He had learned to dress well, and he actually took a lot of care in his appearance and making sure his clothes were nice and his shoes were polished. But they said he was still this vacant person who was, inscrutable. Anyway, I just listened to this part coming in. This is they're talking about Smernikov, and Dostoevsky says that he thinks of this book. He thinks of this painting. He says, this is from the brothers Karamazov. There's a remarkable picture by the painter Kramskoy called Contemplation. There is a forest in the winter, and on a roadway through a forest in absolute solitude stands a peasant in a torn kaftan and bark shoes. He stands, if it were, lost in thought. Yet he is not thinking, he is contemplating. If anyone touched him, he would start and look at them as though awakening and bewildered. It's true, he would come to himself immediately, but if he were asked what he'd been thinking about, he would remember nothing. Yet probably he has, hidden within himself, the impression which has dominated him during this period of contemplation. Those impressions are dear to him, and no doubt he hoards them imperceptibly and even unconsciously. How and why, of course, he does not know either. He may suddenly, after hoarding impressions for many years, abandon everything and go off to Israel on a pilgrimage for his soul's salvation. Or perhaps he will set a fire to his native village, and perhaps do both. There are a good many contemplatives among the peasantry. Well, Smernikov was probably one of them, and he was probably greedily hoarding up his impressions, hardly knowing why. So that's your Dostoevsky update for this week. All right, what's going on? So, I'm on this new setup now. I have a new Mac Mini, and then I have new internet service. So we have two internet services in town, basically. One of them's Wi-Fi, and the other's not. Anyway, I switched to one that was faster. Okay, I'm not going to say which one I switched to, just because I don't want to be sued. Anyway, so I was going in to cancel my other one. And I said, well, I'm going to go in and cancel it because it'll be easier than talking on the phone. So I go in and I sit down, and I swear, going to cancel your internet is like going to the DMV nowadays. And I haven't changed my cable provider for 10 years. I found out later when I went in, or when I called later, they said it'd been 10 years. I walked in there. It's like the DMV. There's probably, I think there was 12 people waiting in line. And then they have the monitor up, and you have to sign in on the kiosk, and you have to say why you're there, and then they show your name, and my name was number 12, I think. And anyway, so I'm waiting in there. I'm probably there a solid 15 minutes, and the line has not moved at all. So I'm thinking, okay, well, this sucks. So I'm going to call. So I call while I'm waiting in line, because I'm thinking I'm going to just try to short circuit this whole thing, and I'm going to get by faster. And then I'm just going to turn my equipment in after I cancel. So I call. And interestingly, I'm calling from this office because there's too many people online. And then when I call, they tell me that they're going to call me back because there's too many people online, virtually too. So here we are. I'm calling because there's too many people online. And then I find out that there's also too many people online calling. So anyway, finally they call me back. I answer the phone. This nice computer person tells me that, why am I calling? And I punch in all the different reasons, and it turns out that I'm not getting new service. I'm not trying to get improved speeds. I'm just trying to cancel. And so they say, okay, well, push this button and you're going to be, and so then I push the button and someone comes on the line. It's a very nice lady, and she wants to know if there's anything just she can do to help me not cancel. And for maybe a solid 15 minutes, we talk. And then after many offers, she finally says, okay, well, I'm going to work on this. And then the phone goes silent. And the phone stays silent. And it stays silent for probably 3 minutes. And I say, hello. And then finally, I didn't hang up. And then finally she comes back on. She goes, sorry to put you on such a long hold. And then she says, one more attempt. And then she says, if you're not happy with your new service provider, then let us know, and then you can change back. But I'm thinking this is probably this situation is probably one of the most unendearing things that I could think of a company could do to try to keep a client, or to try to get them to ever consider going back to that company. So anyway, I got a new service provider, and it seems to be working well. So today I wanted to talk about, let's see here. So I was in the Publix the other day, and I passed by this newspaper, and it was the New York Times, and it said, Donald Trump is doing something, and it's about agencies that were thought to be apolitical before, and these agencies were above politics, or so the headline claimed. And I was thinking to myself, are they actually above politics, or are we made to believe that they're above politics? And they listed different agencies, and actually used to think they were above politics. Who would think that the Department of Transportation could be political? Until Mayor Pete Buttigieg said that interstates and highways were racist. And then another one they listed was the CDC, and they said the CDC is above politics. And I'm thinking, well, the CDC should be above politics, because it's about finding out diseases, and then trying to stop those diseases from hurting people. And it turns out the CDC also is political, because I remember the CDC was talking about the disease of gun violence. Well, gun violence isn't a disease. Gun violence is a type of crime, actually. So that doesn't belong in the CDC. So all these things we're talking about were above, they're supposedly agencies that are above politics, or never above politics. And it made me think that there's a lot of people out there who probably looked at that headline and felt the same way that I did. Although a lot of people in the past probably would have agreed with that. But I have come into the realization that there is no agency that is above politics. And that's one of the things that was important when Trump started off and he canceled USAID. USAID on its face was about helping countries and things like that. And USAID was all about politics. USAID was all about advancing left-wing politics. And then there's this article here. This is from, let's see here. This is from the New York Post, and this came from Instapundit. I believe it came from Instapundit. And it says, the CDC's in-your-face double standards lost America's trust. Winning it back will be tough. And this is from Glenn Reynolds. And Glenn Reynolds is right that the CDC did what it did to itself. And people are talking about, this guy, Dmitry Daskalaskis. He was the guy who dressed up in the leather outfit and whips and chains and stuff. And he's the big time gay face of the National Center for Immunization Respiratory Diseases. And so this guy quit, and he says that the reason he quit was just because, Trump is now going after these vaccines, and the CDC is all about just straight up science. But when you have a guy like this Daskalaskis or whatever, and he's on the he's the face of your CDC, then you got to know that the CDC is not about politics. It says, we need someone, this is from the article, Glenn Reynolds' article, we need someone steady, sensible, respectable, and respected in that job. But what we got was Daskalaskis, another lefty theater kid putting on a show. This is a man who made himself famous by posing on a magazine wearing a leather pentagram harness and showing off his bondage collection and numerous publicly distributed photos. And he's also the one that said that you should not call monkeypox because of political correctness. You're supposed to call it Mpox. So this is a person who ran the CDC's, what is it called? National Center for Immunization Respiratory Diseases. And then when you have someone like that running these outfits, you know that these are not about, these agencies are not above politics. These agencies are about politics. And I don't know why people think that they are. Speaking of agencies, HUD, This is from the Gateway Pundit. HUD Secretary Scott Turner to boot illegal aliens from Section 8 housing. Proof of citizenship now required for all tenants. Who would have thought? And Tracy actually knows firsthand knowledge of this because she used to work in Head Start, and she said that nearly all of the clients that she worked with who were parents of these children of the clients for early Head Start, if they were Hispanic, nearly all of those clients were living in Section 8 housing. Most of the time, or all of the time, the children were the citizen. The parents were not only not citizens, but sometimes drug dealers. And then what would happen would be these parents would live in this HUD housing because of this baby, and the mother doesn't work, and then the father is a drug dealer. Now, this is not something that you would have been ever told. And this is something that now, when Section 8 housing says you have to show proof of citizenship, we're going to be shown pictures of nice, intact families, mother and father trying to take care of these little children, and then ICE agents moving citizens out of their homes because their parents happen to be illegal aliens. If we're going to have Section 8 housing in this country, wouldn't it stand to reason that you should have to have some type of citizenship to live there? But again, this is going to be portrayed as Orange Man bad. What else do we got? So Bruce Willis, unfortunately, has this heartbreaking illness that you probably all been told about. It's frontotemporal degeneration, and now they said that he has moved into a second home as a result. While this is all very sad, and Bruce Willis is actually, I think, a really stand-up guy and a great actor. I hope that his illness passes with as much comfort as it can to him and his family. While all that's true, what's shocking about this article is that it was from his wife, Emma. Usually, from what I've seen, Emma Hemming, Willis' second wife, usually when you see anything about Bruce Willis, it is not having to do with Emma. It is having to do with Demi Moore, who is his ex-wife. And this is what was shocking to me, that this was not Demi Moore making this announcement. Rather, it was Emma Hemming, who is Willis' second wife. Who knew that he had a second wife? It was always the first wife that I've been aware of whenever there's anything about Bruce Willis in the news. What else do we have here? So MSNBC shows their IQ, and this is from Gateway Pundit. MSNBC panel talks about banning all firearms after trans shooter targets Catholic school. Do what Australia did. And so this is the usual typical response whenever there's a mass shooting, a crime, is that the intelligentsia says that we need to ban all guns. And it says Wednesday on MSNBC, spies appeared in a and this is Mike Spies of the anti-gun outlet The Trace, appeared in a roundtable discussion with host Katie Tur and others. Earlier in the day, a transgender murderer had opened fire at the Annunciation Catholic Church, killing 2 children and injuring 17. So this is the solution, is to take away the guns from everybody. It says you have to be honest and say what will actually work. What nobody wants to hear. What is that? Just there's simply too many firearms, and they're way too accessible. Are they too powerful? Tur asked. I can guess the answer. And they're too powerful, Spies replied. Even handguns too. Again, that's why in Australia, it doesn't matter if it's not politically acceptable to say it. I'm not here as a politician or anyone who works in politics. I'm a journalist. Whether you like it or not, the only thing that really works, if you really wanted to bring down gun violence, was to do what Australia did and what many other countries in Europe did. Because that's what we want to do, is emulate Australia and Europe. And so when you have a mentally ill shooting, someone who's been made mentally ill, most likely by hormone therapy, the answer is to ban the guns. And I have a gun right now sitting on my desk. It's a 38 Special Smith & Wesson, and it has not done anything. I've owned this gun for, over a decade, and it has never engaged in any violence, nor have I engaged in any violence with it. And it is powerful. It's a plus P, and that means it's got more powder than the usual 38 special round, and yet it has not engaged in any violence. But that's the answer when you are a brain-limited leftist, is that we have to have less guns, because less guns is what will cure everything. And cue up Amy Klobuchar. This is from Breitbart. Klobuchar calls for a national assault weapons ban in the wake of the Minneapolis shooting. So here we are with an assault weapons ban. It says, Anna Cabrera reports, Senator Amy Klobuchar said there needs to be a national ban on, quote, assault weapons when you're reacting to the Catholic school shooting. What about any bans on out of control people getting guns who have been hormonally made mentally ill? Is there anything? Did she say anything about that? I don't know if she did. This is another reason we talked about agencies that are above the apolitical agencies, and we were told the CDC is above reproach. The CDC is above reproach because it's only about doing well, doing good. The government, as we all know, would never do anything terrible. This is from the CDC website. This says about the untreated syphilis study at Tuskegee. It says background: the U.S. Public Health Service untreated syphilis study at Tuskegee was a study conducted between 1932 and 1972. The study was supposed to observe the natural history of untreated syphilis. As part of the study, researchers did not collect informed consent from participants. They also did not offer treatment, even after it was easily available. The study ended in 1972 on the recommendation of an ad hoc advisory panel. The panel was convened by Assistant Secretary of Health and Scientific Affairs following publication of the news article about the study. So this was as bad as this article. This is from the CDC. This was as bad as they characterized this study. So the the untreated syphilis study at Tuskegee is what it was called. And so what is the real background of this thing? So this is from Don Serber, who has a Substack. And Don Serber says that the untreated syphilis study was not only lack of informed consent, as they say. The real problem with the untreated syphilis study was that it was malicious. It was pathologically psychotic in the way that they went about doing things. And if you don't know about it, here's what it says here. So down to the bottom here. So this supposed study took place, as it said, in this study was, let's see, 40 years it lasted. And this study took place in a time when syphilis was in this community and killing people. And even though it was doing this, nobody was treated when there was treatment readily available. This is a reason that people do not believe that the government is above politics. And this is a reason that the people are rightfully suspicious when there are things such as vaccinations pushed for no other reason than the government says that we need to do it. I can't find that article about it. Anyway, so next up, what do we have here? Oh, Robert Mueller. So Robert Mueller, as you know, was the person who headed up the Russia investigation against Donald Trump. Actually, Robert Mueller has been recently found to have Parkinson's disease. And it says, Mueller announces Parkinson's disease will not testify in Epstein investigation. This is from Zero Hedge. It says, former FBI director and Trump special counsel Robert Mueller claims he has Parkinson's disease and cannot comply with a request to testify this week before a congressional committee investigating the government's handling of the Jeffrey Epstein investigations. So Robert Mueller apparently has Parkinson's disease and can't testify. And then Tyler Durden says, this is a picture of Bill Clinton. It says, have you seen Bill Clinton's been walking around with a defibrillator? And he says, poor guy might not be able to testify either. These things happen. So we're going to see a scene like Goodfellas or Casino. Was it Goodfellas? It was Goodfellas, where all the mob bosses were lined up with their oxygen tanks and wheelchairs. And it's going to be Bill Clinton, Hillary Clinton, Bob Mueller, Brennan, Clapper, and all these guys are all going to be decked out with all of their different medical issues. And we're going to know for sure that they're not able to testify because of that. So this is update about crime. So crime is what we just talked about. There are too many guns. There's too many guns, and the guns are the cause of crime. And if we just got rid of the guns, then we would not have any more crime. So this is from the Issues and Insights website. And this says, care to guess how many of the deadliest cities in the U.S. have a Republican mayor? And so if you scroll down, it says, it lists the cities. And it says, of the 20 cities with the highest homicide rates in the country, 12 are located in red states, but only one currently has a Republican mayor. And while Shreveport, Louisiana currently has a Republican mayor, a Republican has run the city only in 11 of the past 152 years. And it lists all the different cities. So this is out of 100,000 residents. And this is from the Rochester Institute of Technology, I&I research. It says that Birmingham, Alabama has the highest homicide rate at 58.8. Years since a Republican was mayor was 50. St. Louis, Missouri, homicide rate is 54.4. Years since a Republican was a mayor, 76. Memphis is next. Baltimore, New Orleans, Detroit, Cleveland, Dayton, Ohio, Kansas City, Missouri, Shreveport, Louisiana. And it says this is the only one there's currently a Republican mayor. And so what was Shreveport, Louisiana? So what did these guys say? They said, are you going to send people into Shreveport now? So it says, in one of his endless attempts to grab a headline, Governor Gavin Newsom last week taunted President Trump, saying that if he's serious about fighting crime, he should be sending National Guard to red states such as Louisiana, which has a higher murder rate than California. And so that's what he did. He cherry-picked this one city, and then he said, look, they have a higher rate than California. If you're going to send somebody in, send them there. Compton, California is at 20.1, has 62 years since they've had a Republican mayor. Los Angeles, California, 7.1, 24 years since they had a Republican mayor. Oakland, California, 18.6 homicide rate. 48 years since they had a Republican mayor. So anyway, none of this has to do with guns. This has to do with crime. Crime has to do with criminals. Criminals are made through different ways. And one of the ways criminals are made is by the government. It says, this is from the Heritage Foundation paper in 2022. It says, your public safety as a resident is dramatically impacted by your district attorney, by your police department, and by whether the local politicians support and adequately fund the police and prosecutors' offices, noted a Heritage Foundation research paper from 2022. And that's exactly right. And this article also says, it doesn't matter where these cities are located. If Democrats run them, it's more likely that not that the residents are stuck with local prosecutors who won't prosecute crimes, police departments that are understaffed and demoralized, criminals who, if they are caught at all, get released on cashless bail, and political machines that keep these Democrats in power decade after miserable decade. And that is about as easily as you could distill this whole argument about crime, at least as it revolves around big cities and patterns of crime. This is a little interesting thing. this lady, this is Bill Belichick's girlfriend. Bill Belichick, Jordan Hudson Company files for a, quote, gold digger trademark. This is from Breitbart. Former NFL coach Bill Belichick's 24-year-old girlfriend appears to be attempting to trademark the phrase gold digger and is planning to launch a line of merchandise to capitalize on it. It isn't clear if one could trademark such a common phrase, but Jordan Hudson is taking a shot at it, according to TMZ Sports. This girl is, she's 20, what else? I just said she's 24. Yeah, there she is. So, Bill Belichick, this is something else. Bill Belichick, I guess he's the coach now of the Tar Heels. Yes. And so I don't know if they won. No, they haven't had their season opener yet. I saw someone predicted that he's never going to be the coach just because of this chaos that is perceived to be, and we don't know. They may have a very nice life together. Hopefully they do. Who knows? But there you go. She's going to try to trademark gold digger. I think there were some other things. The company also filed protection for phrases such as all Belichick. I don't know who would want that. Why you'd need to trademark that. All Belichick, Team Chapel Bill. Well, that's catchy. The Belichick Way. All right. And Dynasty Bill's version. I have a feeling that these were probably cooked up by her and not by him. And I don't think anybody's going to be trying to trademark any of those, but, good for them for going about doing that. Little medical thing on. So, Dr. Tommy Show, PSA, let's call it. If you haven't had a physical lately with your doctor, next time you do have a physical, there's a couple things you should bring up. And one of them is this. This is from my website, drtommy.com/blog. Lung cancer is the number one cause of cancer death. All right. So cancer is caused by cells that just go crazy and they start reproducing, and then they take over your body. They form a tumor. And then everybody knows about colon cancer, and everyone knows that you need to get a colonoscopy, and then everyone knows about breast cancer, and everyone knows you need to get a mammogram. But according to this, it says lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death in America among smokers. Lung cancer is the leading cause of cancer death among non-smokers. So why don't doctors ever talk about it? And there's different reasons for that, and one of the reasons has to do with the ease of getting screened for cancer. And it basically is not financially remunerative to get screened for lung cancer. It takes $100, and they run you through a machine, and 5 minutes later you have your answer. There's no bowel prep. There's no going to the doctor. There's no undressing. There's no pelvic exam. There's no scopes. And so it's very efficient, very inexpensive, and very easy to obtain. And for that reason, I think is the reason why people don't get screened. And that sounds counterintuitive, but if you think about a medical industrial complex, then it's not so crazy to think about it. It says, we're all aware of breast cancer and colon cancer. In 2021, breast cancer took the lives of 43,250 individuals in the U.S. That same year, colon cancer killed 52,900 people. Lung cancer caused the death of 124,730. And so if you talk to your doctor and you ask them about this and they say, well, you don't really need it. Do you smoke? You can tell them this article is available to them. They can read it as well. And like I said, it's the leading cause of death cancer death among smokers and non-smokers alike. And then they'll say, well, there's danger in the radiation. And I'll tell you that I looked it up, and it says that the amount of radiation that you get from a low-dose CT scan is equivalent to 1 year living on Earth. And so if you look at it that way, 1 year living on Earth versus cancer exposure or radiation exposure, you can then make the decision yourself whether you want it. But the government does not endorse this. And that's why this is the show the establishment warned you about. And this is another thing. Go back here. So another thing you should talk to your doctor about, heart scan. This is a part of every physical that we do. We talk about heart scans. This is from the blog. A heart scan could save your life. People die unexpectedly from heart attacks that could have been avoided with a heart scan. Happens all too frequently, sometimes to someone you love. An unexpected death due to a heart attack. Many times the person had no idea they had heart disease. In many of these cases, a CT scan of the heart could have detected heart disease and allowed that person to seek medical attention to address the issue. So why is it so few have this scan done? And, well, this is the actual reason. First and foremost, insurance doesn't pay for it in most cases. So unless you go to a special doctor, like a concierge doctor, most people won't ever be given the option of having one done. Concierge doctors aren't tied up with insurance bureaucracy and think, quote, outside the box when it comes to patients' health. And when we have a patient who needs a heart scan, we order it, and the patient pays $700 cash. That's it. In an insurance-based practice, a doctor usually will stay within the confines of what the insurance pays for and what the medical establishment recommends. If you search the guidelines of influential medical groups like the AMA, the USPT, PSTF, American College of Physicians, and American Academy of Family Physicians, you will find no mention of screening coronary CT angiogram, the simple and affordable scan that could save your life. So if you or your loved one wants to know more about how to prevent health problems, not just take meds, then seek out an independent medical doctor who has your best interest in mind. This is a great article. Who wrote that? Oh, I did. And there's a little, this is a video from 10 years ago from Dr. Griffin and I back in the day at our old office. So anyway, heart scans, lung CT scans, both of those could save your life. Both of those are good things to talk to your doctor about. And if your doctor kind of poo-poos the idea, then maybe seek a second opinion. Let's see what else we got here. Jerry Adler, who was Hesh on The Sopranos, has passed away. And so here he is, Jerry Adler. He played Hesh, who was, they call him, I saw someone said it was Tony's consigliere, which is not true. He is not the consigliere. He was Hesh was an associate. Being Jewish, he clearly could not be consigliere. No offense to Mario Puzo, but anyway, so he died. He was Hesh on The Sopranos. He was 96 years old. He didn't start acting until he was in his 60s. But before that, he worked in. He says, this is from Breitbart. It says, blah blah blah. He also served for many years as a Broadway director and stage manager before moving on to the public stage. But yeah, so he didn't start acting until his 60s, and so he was played Hesh, which was an associate. He was mostly involved in money, loaning money, putting money on the street, and he was also earlier in his life a producer. And in the actually, I think it's the pilot or maybe the second episode was a lot about Hesh in his earlier career as a producer, and how he was basically helping these young kids get on radio and make some money. And in exchange, he became a co-writer of all these big hits, and that's how he made all of his money. So Hesh has died. Tony Soprano has died from that show. James Gandolfini. We also have lost from that show. We have lost Tony Sirico, who was Paulie. Who else have we lost from that show? We've lost a lot of people from that show. And unfortunately, over the next decade, we're going to lose, I think, basically all the important people in rock and roll. And a good majority of the important people in Hollywood acting. If you think about it, the 70s, I think, and this is maybe just me being, how you're always kind of, what's the word for it? You get a bias towards your generation, I guess. So people who grew up in my time, so I came of age in the 90s, let's say. I was a teenager in the 90s. We think the 90s was a good time, but I also think of the 70s as being better. And so the 70s, to me, as far as music is concerned, was a better time. And then later on, you think the other stuff that can be after you was basically crap. And for the most part, I think that holds true as regarding music, especially rock music. Now, there's some good rock music out there, don't get me wrong. We're going to go see this band called the Red Clay Strays on Friday, and we're flying to Cincinnati to see them in a outdoor venue. Anyway, that's a good band. They're a new band, and there's other good bands, but the reality is over the next decade, like I said, shorter, we're going to lose. I mean, look at all the great bands that are out there. I mean, there's 50% of the Beatles still left, amazingly. Paul McCartney and Ringo Starr are still left. They'll be gone. All of Led Zeppelin will be gone. There's 3 members of Led Zeppelin still alive, amazingly. Pink Floyd, the same. Now there's 3 members of Pink Floyd still alive, again, amazingly. And what's amazing, too, is adding to my hypothesis, or supporting my hypothesis, that these times were better than now. Those times, were better than now. Not all of them, but a lot of the big touring operations now are these golden oldies bands. I mean, the Rolling Stones are still pulling in millions of dollars. AC/DC, who I saw this past year, pulling in millions of dollars. You are not going to see that in 25, 30 years from the current bands. I guarantee you. There may be 1 or there may be 2. U2 very well may be touring when they're in their 70s. But you're not going to see any of these bands that are out there now. Hell, you'll be lucky if there are bands. I just saw there was some article that said that an AI music creator has signed its first record deal. Kiss, they are going to be avatars, or they are avatars now. And supposedly the company that bought the Kiss property rights, they're going to be touring as avatars. I don't think anybody will go see that. But my point is that we're going to lose a lot of the people who are currently alive still, who are great and were great and will never be replaced as far as how good they were. And that applies to acting too. Like I said from the earlier, we talked about all those guys that were impersonated by Titus Welliver. Al Pacino will be gone. Robert De Niro will be gone potentially. Christopher Walken, Robert Duvall's 95 years old. So, we're going to lose all these. Clint Eastwood, and Kevin Costner's even getting up there. So I don't know. It's going to be interesting. I kind of feel bad actually, because there's, you're losing part of your childhood. Whenever you see people like that getting old, that means that you're old too. And so that makes you feel vulnerable, I guess. And I don't really think about it that way, but I think about it more in terms of loss, because there's never going to be another Clint Eastwood movie that stars Clint Eastwood like there were before. And so all these things that are happening, that just brings, when you see someone like Jerry Adler going, that, a lot of the Sopranos are getting up there too. And that was a great show. And so whenever you lose great things like that, then there's nothing to take its place. It kind of leaves a void. What else we got here? Oh, Cracker Barrel. So I guess they reverse course. We all heard about that. Cracker Barrel, they tried to switch, and then they didn't do it. This is from Powerline blog. This guy's Mr. Bean's cheating off of Bud Light. Mr. Bean's Cracker Barrel, he's cheating off of Bud Light's papers. There's a good thing here. Oh, here it is. This is a picture, if you're listening. It's got the Cracker Barrel guy leaning against a barrel, and then up in the sky, waiting for him to come up to visit, is Uncle Ben, Aunt Jemima, Land O'Lakes lady, the Redskins, and the Cleveland Indians. What else we got here? Oh, then they have Cracker Barrel before with Sydney Sweeney, and then Cracker Barrel after with the lady who was in Snow White. Trump actually ordered them to switch back, and they did. Let's see what else we got here. Oh, this is a good one. This has got Cracker Barrel with this, plain text, boring, and then it's got the Jaguar rebrand underneath of it. This is a good one. Cracker Barrel, All American Girl bikini. Cracker Barrel, transgender dude bikini. This is before and after. So anyway, this is Dr. Tommy Show, listening live. If you want to go see more of Dr. Tommy from the past, go to drtommy.com/podcast. You can see the archives on Rumble, on YouTube, and streaming. Thank you for joining us. Until next time, bye-bye.